At 14:30 hours, Ukrainian operators launched what should have been a routine strike mission. Within minutes, everything would explode, literally. Their Shark D reconnaissance drone was circling above a damaged bridge, the perfect choke point. A Russian convoy was moving below, towing a 152mm howitzer. Easy target, right? Except the drone wasn't hunting anymore. It was being hunted. Every time that drone transmitted video back to its operators, it was basically screaming, "Here I am," across the electromagnetic spectrum. And the Russians had something listening. The convoy was moving at 15 kilometers per hour toward the bridge. The Ukrainian strike team was 4 kilometers away, but between them and the target were 3 layers of Russian defenses that had already stopped over 30 Ukrainian drones. The system in place, the Zoopark, 1 counter-battery radar, wasn't even designed to hunt drones. It was built to track artillery shells in flight, calculate their origin, and rain steel on those coordinates. But the Russians got clever. They realized drone control signals are just radio waves, and radio waves can be tracked. Here's how it works: the radar detects your signal and takes a bearing, drawing a line from the radar to where you're transmitting from. One line is nothing. But multiple bearings from different positions. Those lines cross at exactly one point, your position. 3 minutes later, artillery rounds land on your head. The operators knew the statistics were brutal. Transmit from the same spot for more than 5 minutes and there's a 40% chance you're not transmitting again, ever. The Russians even had a name for it: counter-reconnaissance by fire. No visual confirmation needed. Just detect, calculate, devastate. So the Ukrainian operators adapted. They started frequency hopping across 128 channels every second, never staying on one frequency long enough for Zoopark to lock on. They transmitted in bursts, 0.3 seconds of data, then silence for 30 seconds. Just enough control, not enough to die. But then things got worse. Thermal sensors picked up a Russian Orlan 10 drone approaching from the north. That meant the Russians suspected operators nearby and had launched their own hunter. The Orlan's thermal camera could spot human body heat from 2 kilometers away. The Ukrainian team had to choose: keep eyes on the target, or hide under thermal blankets and go blind. They chose to hide. But first, they needed to alert the strike team 4 kilometers away. A direct radio handoff was too dangerous, both teams transmitting at once would double their electromagnetic signature. So they did something ingenious. The Shark dropped a digital breadcrumb, one tiny encrypted packet on 433 MHz, a frequency the Russians weren't monitoring for drone control. It contained GPS coordinates, convoy speed, wind conditions, and the optimal attack vector. Total transmission time, 0.3 seconds. Too brief to triangulate. Too encrypted to decode. On the wrong frequency to notice. The strike team received the packet. The convoy was halfway to the bridge, moving through twisted metal and broken concrete. They had maybe 10 minutes before it cleared the choke point, but again, 3 layers of Russian defenses stood between them and the target. The FPV operator powered up his drone, 7-inch carbon fiber frame, 2 kilograms shaped charge, battery at 16.8 volts. Enough juice for 7 minutes of flight. The target was 4 minutes away. Should be easy, right? Wrong. The Russians had learned something critical about drone warfare: you don't need to shoot drones down, you just need to cut the connection. No connection, no control. No control, mission failed. The first 2 kilometers were smooth. The drone skimmed along at 3 meters altitude, using every tree line and collapsed building for cover. Video feed was crystal clear, 1080p, 60 frames per second. Then, at exactly 2 kilometers out, the image began breaking up. Static lines. Frame rate dropping. The Russian repellent, one mobile jammer, had just woken up. Imagine a microwave oven with the door open, except instead of heating leftovers, it was blasting 400 watts of electromagnetic chaos across all drone frequencies. At 2 kilometers range, the signal was still overpowering. The drone's transmitter was whispering into a hurricane. The operator switched frequencies, dropping to 433 MHz, outside normal jamming bands. The signal returned, grainy but usable. Video quality looked like a 2005 flip phone at 10 frames per second. At 1.5 kilometers, even that started dying. The Russians weren't using one jammer, they had layers, vehicle-mounted systems, portable trench jammers every 200 meters, and likely a Pole 21 area denial system behind the lines. 3 systems, overlapping coverage, different frequencies. It was an electronic black hole. But the Ukrainians had a way out. The drone carried an AI module trained on 10,000 hours of combat footage. It could recognize vehicles, lock on, and guide itself to impact, but only if it clearly saw the target for 2 seconds within 400 meters. To get there, the drone had to fly blind through that electronic storm. The operator switched to dead reckoning, last known position, convoy speed, elapsed time. The math said the truck should be at the bridge center. Then, miraculously, for 1 frame, 1/60th of a second, the video flickered back. The bridge appeared 800 meters ahead. The truck was exactly where the math predicted. That 1 frame was enough. Another 400 meters of blind flight, and the AI could take over, if the drone survived. At 3 kilometers out, the video suddenly returned crystal clear for moments at a time. A gap in the jamming layer. Maybe an antenna rotation or interference from the bridge's metal structure. Either way, it revealed something terrifying. A Russian interceptor drone was already diving, 20 meters above, coming down like a falcon. Drone combat happens insanely fast. Combined closing speed, 280 kilometers per hour, impact in under 4 seconds. Worse, the Russian interceptor had no warhead, meaning it was lighter and more agile. The Ukrainian drone carried a 2 kilograms shaped charge. Fighting while carrying a backpack of explosives is not ideal. The Ukrainian operator broke hard left, pulling 5 gs. The Russian interceptor overshot, looping around for another pass. Battery life was draining fast, hard maneuvers tripled consumption. The Russian pilot switched tactics, climbing high to dive again with gravity-boosting speed. The Ukrainian drone couldn't climb, too heavy, battery stressed. So the operator did something insane, he cut the throttle entirely. The drone dropped from 15 to 3 meters altitude in 2 seconds. The Russian interceptor dove through empty air. At the last moment, the operator powered back carefully, avoiding a flip from torque. Both drones were now low, slow, and circling, a dogfight at grass level. The Russian drone slowly gained angle, moving toward the Ukrainian drone's blind spot. The Ukrainian operator had 1 move left, a vertical reversal. Full throttle. Straight up. At the top of the climb, he cut throttle and spun 180 degrees in midair, nose pointed straight down at the interceptor. They were about to collide. At the last second, the Ukrainian drone rolled right and dove past the interceptor. The Russian drone streaked by, committed to the wrong line. By the time it recovered, the Ukrainian drone was already racing toward the bridge. The entire dogfight lasted 18 seconds and cost 30% battery. Only 8% charge remained. The truck was 3/4 across the bridge. Russian soldiers were already in position, weapons raised, they'd heard the drone fight and knew what was coming. The rifleman fired first. 1 bullet severed a power lead to the rear left motor. The drone lurched sideways. A shotgunner fired buckshot. 2 pellets hit, 1 destroyed a front motor, another pierced the battery casing. Voltage dropped fast. 2 motors left. Speed falling. Yet the drone kept going. At 15 meters, the second shotgunner fired again, but by then, the damaged drone had dipped just low enough for the blast to miss overhead. At 10 meters, the third soldier couldn't lower his rifle enough to aim. He stumbled backward on debris. The AI made its final calculation. The operator aimed for the truck's cab, where ammunition was stored. The battery voltage was now critically low. Thrust collapsing. But the drone had just enough momentum. The proximity sensor armed. Impact. The copper jet punched straight through the ammunition storage. 8 152mm shells cooked off at once. The explosion lifted the truck 2 meters into the air. The bridge deck cracked and collapsed. The truck and artillery piece tumbled into the river below. High above, the Shark D recorded everything in high definition. Russian soldiers stared at their destroyed crossing as smoke climbed 200 meters into the sky. The nearest alternate bridge was 15 kilometers away. This is the new reality of warfare, every moment watched, and somewhere, there's always an operator with a 7-inch drone waiting for their moment.